On this edition of Southern Newsweek, Tairi Gorge rail staff say jobs could be saved by implementing commuter rail. Dunedin's historic Chingford Stables get a makeover, and balloonists take to the skies in an attempt to restart the tourism industry. Kia ora, I'm Melissa Barton. Tairi Gorge rail workers marched through Dunedin streets to deliver a letter to the Mayor on Tuesday morning. Protesters say the tourist railway and over 50 jobs could be saved if they branched out into trialling commuter rail.
Tairi Gorge railway workers marched to the Dunedin City Council chambers, urging the Mayor and councillors to support a trial of commuter rail in Dunedin. This comes after Dunedin Railways announced plans to mothball the track and equipment following a downturn in tourism from COVID-19.
Realise that the board of Dunedin Railways has reacted with zero vision and zero ideas, and so our supporters here and ourselves have done their job for them and come up with several alternatives which will keep this railways going.
Rail and Maritime Transport Union Otago Branch Secretary Dave Kearns says trialling commuter rail is just one of several options which could save some of the 50-plus jobs threatened by the closure.
The commuter rail trial is one of the ideas and the most immediate one that will save jobs, keep the assets rolling, keep them in good condition, and it can be fitted in before Kiwi Rail's freight peak season picks up again during September. And it would feed really good information into a longer term future study of commuter rail in this region.
Kearns says he also has suspicions the decision to mothball the rail following COVID-19 is just a convenient excuse to close the enterprise.
Apparently the only board member to remain will be the chairperson, and I have to wonder how you even operate a board with one person. How do you have meetings? How do you have a quorum? And we're starting to get the growing feeling that actually between the Dunedin City Holdings chairman and the Dunedin Railways chairman that this closure was cooked up, and the COVID lockdown has become a convenient way of actually getting rid of the company.
In Dunedin, the South today.
Work is well underway replacing the slate tiles on one of Dunedin's historic buildings. The Dunedin City Council is refurbishing the Category 1 listed Chingford Stables to the tune of around $100,000.
The roof of Dunedin's historic Chingford Stables in North East Valley is currently undergoing a much-needed replacement. The work is being supervised by craftsman slate specialist John Megan.
We're taking the old roof off, which was quite dilapidated, and we're putting a new slate roof on.
It's thought the original slates came from an old quarry near Timaru. The 6,500 replacement slates come from Spain and were chosen to match the original colour and shapes.
These are Iberian slates, yes, yeah, and they're good quality Iberian. A lot of Iberian slate is not the best, but these are really good. But you get bad quality Welsh slate as well, so it's swings and roundabouts, but these are good quality.
The Stables is a historic Category 1 building dating back to the 1870s, and Megan says there's signs the roof has undergone previous repairs since it was first built 150 years ago.
It's had something done to it within the last 50 years. Just looking at the nails that have come off, that they're not 120 years old. You know, like you can tell from the old nails. These have got, some of the nails have got an initial in them. So some firm, they put the initial on top of the nail, the slate nail, and some of these nails I've taken off have had the initial on, so probably quite recent, you know, like within the last 50 years.
The current spruce up also includes repairing some roof timbers and repainting the building's exterior, with a total cost estimated to be around $100,000. In Dunedin, the South today.
Black Lives Matter and I Can't Breathe signs were in abundance in Dunedin's Octagon on Monday, as hundreds showed their solidarity with protesters in the United States. The peaceful protest was one of several in New Zealand following the death of African-American George Floyd. While being arrested in Minneapolis, people stood in unity against racism, while others spoke out against colonisation. Some voiced their concern about a trial arming a New Zealand police team. The organisers asked people at the protest to keep to groups of 30, comply with contact tracing efforts and maintain physical distancing. Police said they were not aware of any issues at Sunday's Dunedin protest. Like many businesses, Dunedin's Gallery De Novo was closed during the COVID-19 nationwide lockdown. Gallery staff kept themselves busy online before welcoming clients back with an exhibition by a Dunedin artist, whose work has attracted the attention of 90s supermodel Claudia Schiffer.
From Otago to New York Fashion Week, the latest work of Dunedin artist Susie Platt hangs in Gallery De Novo in their current exhibition. Gallery co-director Liz Fraser says the world is opening up for Susie Platt.
And since she's been painting these fashion illustrations, she has done Paris Fashion Week, that was last year, and then this year she was asked to do New York Fashion Week, so it means that she's just gained a whole new audience.
But that isn't Platt's first foray into the fashion world, after she was commissioned by a former supermodel to produce portraits of her daughters.
She painted Claudia Schiffer, the famous supermodel. She painted her two daughters' portraits a couple of years ago, and just a couple of weeks ago Claudia, off her own back, posted an image of her standing in front of the two portraits, so that was incredible, and it was really just a shout out to Susie, which was an amazing gesture and great publicity for her.
Fraser says Gallery De Novo has shown Platt's work from the gallery's beginnings 15 years ago, and says the connection with Claudia Schiffer and the fashion world is going from strength to strength for the Dunedin artist.
It is amazing. It just shows how global the world is. She painted those illustrations from watching the catwalk shows just after they happened, and did the paintings of sort of signature looks from each collection, and then some of the works were shown in London and some here, so yeah, it's a very big deal.
This exhibition of Susie Platt's work has been up at Gallery De Novo for just on a fortnight and is coming down Thursday, ready for a new exhibition, which would typically call for an opening, but Fraser says under COVID Level 2 restrictions that's just not possible.
We won't be having openings just in the immediate future because our exhibition space is upstairs in the mezzanine level, and it's just too small to have however many, 50 to 100 people, so we just encourage people to pop in anytime.
Liz Fraser says while the gallery was closed for lockdown, they spent time selling online and have shipped New Zealand artworks to the United Arab Emirates and even further afield. In Dunedin, the South today.
Balloonists took to the skies as part of a busy weekend for tourism in the South. Operators and hospitality business owners are hoping the tourism buzz from Queen's birthday weekend will lead to a sustained shift in fortunes after the COVID-19 lockdown.
Sunrise Balloons lived up to its name on Sunday morning, launching its first flight since lockdown into the clear skies of the Wakatipu Basin.
It's pretty magical. We've never been in a hot air balloon before. It's a cool experience.
Balloon pilot Carrick McLellan has been flying balloons in the South Island for 11 years and says the venture is very much a family business.
Mum and Dad set up the business back in '98, so always been a flying family, so ballooning was just a progression on that, and here we are, beautiful place to do it, Wakatipu Basin, Queenstown.
He says it's good to be back in the basket, with the company now catering pretty much exclusively to New Zealanders.
We've dropped our price a wee bit to suit the Kiwis and what we call locals now. We've got a fair amount of locals on right now, but local expands to the whole of New Zealand these days, so we are good to go. Bookings coming in, lots of people here this weekend, Queen's birthday weekend, so it's looking good.
In Queenstown, the South today.
Still to come up after the break on Southern Newsweek. A 98-year-old telescope has returned to the Dunedin Observatory, and a trust is looking to raise $150,000 towards a park near Luggett. Welcome back. To the untrained eye, it might look like a piece of well-used plumbing. But a closer inspection reveals it is actually the original 98-year-old telescope from the Beverley Beg Observatory, which was returned this week.
This 12-inch reflector telescope is coming back home to Dunedin's Beverley Beg Observatory. The scope was first installed in this very observatory almost 100 years ago in the 1920s, but spent the latter part of the 20th century at the Oamaru Observatory before falling into disuse. Damien McNamara's father saved the telescope and used it to photograph a comet colliding with Jupiter in 1994.
Basically, my father had a rubbish run around town. He saw this tube, what looked like a telescope, sitting out the back of a pharmacy, and asked about it, and it was indeed a telescope. Found out it was the Beverley Beg telescope. Well, we call it the Beverley Beg telescope in Oamaru. They call it the Ward telescope down here because it's the man that ground the mirror. And then Dad put it into a custom-made fork setup to shoot Shoemaker Levy 9 hitting Jupiter. So it's had a good history. It needs a bit of TLC, but since then it's been pretty much in storage.
While it's unlikely the telescope will be used again, he's pleased to have it back on display along with other items of interest at Dunedin's Observatory.
Be able to bring the original telescope back to where it was built, or to the building that it was built for, it adds to the story. You can then show the telescope, you tell the story, you can tell where it's been, what it did, where it was, and it creates that community even further and extends the story even further and allows you to bring more people in that want to know the history.
McNamara concedes town-based observatories do suffer from light pollution, but they can provide a convenient way of introducing the public to the wonders of astronomy, with better night sky viewing opportunities existing out of town.
When you want to find dark skies, you'll find dark skies. The observatory doesn't necessarily need to have it. I know these guys from Dunedin Astronomical Society have a dark sky site over in the Middlemarch area. So yeah, but if you want dark skies, you'll find them.
In Dunedin, the South today.
Invercargill's largest venue is back in business, with the stadium's Southland team urging the community to make use of the facility. The Invercargill Licensing Trust Stadium was reopened when the country moved to Alert Level 2. But because of restrictions on numbers, attendance has been low.
Despite a challenging past 2 months, IILT Stadium Southland manager Nigel Scout says the organisation is ready to hold sporting events once again.
We're looking towards having obviously the opportunity of having teams coming in to train, which will be great, and some competitive competition type situations where under the Ministry of Health guidelines we can operate.
COVID-19 has also led to the loss of two of the stadium's main draw cards. The Southland Sharks basketball team, who will not be taking part in any competition this year, and the Southern Steel, who will take part in the national netball competition being held in Auckland.
It's been very difficult. Obviously we've got the Steel playing in Auckland. That's fantastic. We are still their home, and they've been training every day here, and we'll continue to do so. And obviously no Sharks season, but we're really excited that we're creating Basketball South. We're creating a new 3-on-3 competition as well. So it's something new for the province, which is really exciting.
Scout says this year the stadium, which reopened today to the public, has lost about 40% of its events, but he hopes more bookings will come in later this year.
We've got lots of range of activities from clip and climb to tennis to netball, basketball courts and so on. So we're just hoping going through into the long weekend that we'll get that increased activity. We're open all 3 days, so lots of activity to come and have a crack at.
2020 was supposed to be a year-long celebration for the stadium, which will be celebrating its 20-year anniversary, but Scout says they still have reason to be thankful.
We've had a reset, that's the key word now, a reset and a refocus, so we're going to enjoy the last 6 months of the birthday, because it was a 12-month birthday celebration. It was our biggest event number on record in our 20-year history we had planned for this year and confirmed, so again we're resetting. We put a lot of the events into the back half of the year where we can, and I'm very thankful for promoters.
In Invercargill, the South today.
A Queenstown invention is in the final stages of getting approval as an official data recorder for helicopters in New Zealand. Named IInTheSky, the device has already been fitted in helicopter cockpits across several overseas countries.
In the future, it's possible all helicopters will carry this cockpit camera recorder. It was designed and built in New Zealand for over-the-top helicopters after what was a personal tragedy for CEO Louisa Patterson.
We designed it on the recommendation of an accident report that my son was tragically killed in, where the Transport Accident Investigator Commission said should the aircraft have been fitted with a cockpit audio visual camera device, then they would have been able to establish why the aircraft broke up in flight.
Patterson's son James and his instructor Steve Coombe were both killed when their Robinson R44 incurred a mast bump incident in 2015. However, she says the black box recorder, which is called IInTheSky, has applications well beyond just helping investigate aircraft accidents.
We found it to be very proactive and very great in raising our safety standards. For example, you might have an intermittent engineering fault, and it'll be picked up by the engineers when you replay the footage to them. They can solve a mystery really quickly. You may be able to use it for debriefing pilots or training prior to going up into the mountains. You can use it for closing occurrences. So there's all sorts of positive things that can be used for on a daily basis.
Patterson says they've trialled the cockpit camera recorder and official approval to fit the device into helicopters is just around the corner. In Queenstown, the South today.
A trust in Wanaka is hoping to raise over $150,000 towards a native river park near Luggett. The aim is to create a half-hectare park alongside the Clutha River on land currently leased from Contact Energy.
A local trust is hoping to raise over $150,000 to keep the dream alive of a native river park in Luggett. Trustee Jeremy Van Riel said the idea for the park began with Lewis Verdon Castles, a long-term resident who began leasing the land in the 1990s, restoring a cottage and establishing native plants.
I met Lewis through a mutual friend of ours. It was 2013, I believe. He really did have a passion for ecology, and so he'd spend his time here beside the river planting out a wee nursery of kānuka, working on the garden and networking with other people with a similar passion or interest for the waterways.
In 2014, Mr. Verdon Castles established the Red Bridge River Park Trust with the aim of creating a community park alongside the Clutha River.
He shoulder tapped me this particular day and said he was interested in creating a charitable trust looking after the Clutha River, encouraging the return of bird song, aquatic life, and also creating a space for people to come and experience the environment.
He negotiated a purchase agreement for the trust to buy the site for $300,000 from Contact Energy. Mr. Verdon Castles unexpectedly died last August, aged only 60, but the trust is working to complete his vision.
This property was so important to Lewis, he donated the first $149,000 towards paying Contact for this land. And so he really put his money where his mouth is.
The trustees have set up a Give a Little page and are hoping to raise the balance of $151,000 to complete the purchase.
I guess it's more the promise of what this land holds and what our shared vision holds that really excites me about this land. When I come back here, I sink into that. And yeah, now I really need support.
Simon Henderson for the South Today.
Still to come up after the break on Southern Newsweek. Cemeteries in the Waitaki district are getting some of their gravestones cleaned up by a team of volunteers. And we hear from the Tairi Electric National Party candidate, Liam Kernaghan. Thanks for staying with us. 17 cemeteries across the Waitaki district are getting some of their gravestones cleaned up by a team of volunteers. Headstones belonging to former soldiers and nurses are scheduled for a spruce up in recognition of the bravery many of the buried showed in war.
Respect, rejuvenation and education are the key principles behind a project to restore graves of former military personnel in the Waitaki district. Former soldier Barry Gamble has set up a local branch of the New Zealand Remembrance Army, an organisation that has already restored more than 14,000 headstones across the country.
There's a lot of heroes lying around in here, unsung heroes, who I'm sure would be probably shocked and horrified to see that they've been brought out into the open, but yeah, we're going to identify them and whether they like it or not, and give them the respect that they need.
The Waitaki branch's ultimate goal was to record and restore the graves of every former soldier and nurse buried in the 17 cemeteries across the district. However, to clean a headstone, the group needed permission from the deceased family.
The time will come where we can't find the owners, and they're going to look pretty shoddy and disrespectful. We all say that we shall remember them, but come and have a walk through a cemetery and we soon forget.
Gamble says reviving the headstones is rewarding, as all those buried beneath them had made great sacrifices.
You feel quite proud because you've done some good, and the headstone looks really like it's brand new.
Gamble is encouraging family members of former military personnel buried in the district to contact the group and give permission for the headstones to be cleaned. People can do this by emailing nzrawaitaki@gmail.com. In Oamaru, the South Today.
When Jenny Beck called all of her staff into a meeting after the COVID-19 lockdown, the mood was anxious. None of them expected the law firm owner to give each of her 14 employees $1,000 to spend on small businesses in the local economy.
A Dunedin lawyer is helping the local economy by giving her staff a little bit extra in their pockets. Jenny Beck Law Principal Jenny Beck is giving each of her employees $1,000 as a way to help small businesses across the country. The idea for the bonus came after thinking about all the money she hadn't spent during the COVID-19 lockdown, and her only stipulation was the money had to be spent with small businesses.
I thought if I give a sum of money to each staff member, it would be really good, with stern words not to spend it on Trade Me or at New World or Countdown. No big recipients, just small traders, small people, small businesses. And so I said, how about you all go away for a weekend, a long weekend, and take the money with you and spend it on accommodation or food and drink or tourist kind of stuff, and just make sure you spend it wherever you go.
Beck says the reaction from the staff was amazing.
Well, I told them, and just about everyone cried. And then I felt like crying myself. They were so excited. And then, bless them, we've just had a morning tea. They put it on specially for me and gave me flowers. And a book about a biography of Jacinda Ardern. So that's fabulous, such a wonderful thing to do.
Solicitor Ashley Mitchell says it was an overwhelming gesture from her boss, and she already knew what she was going to be doing with the money.
Just yesterday I booked a trip with some of my uni friends to the Able Tasman, so yeah, we're really looking forward to that and kind of exploring a part of the country we haven't been to before.
Jenny Beck says her staff have already booked holidays across the South Island, with the money being spent with local businesses as far away as Queenstown and Kaikoura. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Recently, the South Today caught up with the new Labour Party candidate in the Taieri electorate. Vying for the same seat, which replaces the former Dunedin South electorate, is National Party candidate Liam Kernaghan.
29-year-old Liam Kernaghan is the National Party's candidate in the recently altered Taieri electorate. He says being local is an advantage, and the only electoral poll to worry about is in September.
Look, polls are a snapshot in time. What I'm more interested in is what I'm hearing from the community, which is they want a really strong local champion, and they want to talk about the issues that they're facing, which is jobs, which is employment, which is about making sure our community is best served out of COVID. So you know what? We've still got a long time to the election. There's just under 4 months to go, 115 days, I think. I'm really excited about the opportunities that are ahead of me. I'm really excited about the opportunities that are ahead for our city and our region, and I'm going to spend every day working hard to get as many votes as possible so we get a strong local champion after September 19.
The former University of Otago law student graduated in 2014 with first-class honours, after growing up in Dunedin and going to one of the city's well-regarded schools.
I'm born and bred Dunedin. I went to school at John McGlashan College. I went to the new University of Otago. I'm just passionate about making sure Dunedin gets the best representation it possibly can. Having that local champion that can advocate for us in Wellington. Wellington's a pretty crazy beast. Sometimes they forget actually what it's like down in the south. So, you know, I've worked in Wellington. I know the processes. I can beat through the processes, and that's important. You know, COVID-19 presents so many challenges but so many opportunities for Dunedin, and I'm excited about the opportunity to represent our region.
Kernaghan is no stranger to the capital and Parliament, having worked for parliamentary services under a top-flight swathe of National Party politicians, including recently rolled leader Simon Bridges.
Oh look, well I just want to acknowledge obviously Simon and Paula. They are tremendous New Zealanders who gave a lot to their country, who care passionately about New Zealand. But look, the caucus made a decision and now Todd and Nikki are our leader. Look, I've worked with both Todd and Nikki. Nikki and Amy Adams particularly are really close friends of mine, so I'm excited about what that means for New Zealanders. You know, Todd has 20 years of business experience, particularly in the agriculture sector, and Nikki obviously having a strong presence in Auckland and in education, both really fundamental issues at this election. I'm excited about what that means, but you know, look at the whole team.
Kernahan's survived a few years in the political arena in Wellington and says he's not jaded.
I've seen the good that politics can do. I know people give politicians a lot of whack, but you know, there's actually a lot of good. And for instance, you know, this week we've had a number of local issues, whether it's around small businesses. You know, the Balclutha Play Centre got in touch with me about a lack of funding for them, and I see my role very much being about to cut through all the Wellington bureaucracy and making sure we get our fair share of the opportunities down here.
He describes his family as deeply rooted in the National Party's values. New Zealand is set to go to the polls on September the 19th. In Dunedin, the South today.
That wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Have a great evening. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.